The views and opinions expressed on Unlock Your Wealth Radio are those of the host, guests, and callers only and are not necessarily the views of Unlock Your Wealth Radio, Heather Wagenhals, or Success Publishing International.
More willpower than a barefoot woman at a shoe sale. Able to stretch a single paycheck for an entire month. Makes money concepts easier than third-grade math. Introducing your purveyor of prosperity, Heather Wagenhals.
Work all day, stress all night. Take your mind off your money and focus on your life. Money don't matter or the stuff it buys. It's the way you think, not what you've got, yeah.
Unlock Your Wealth Radio starts now.
Get your money mind right. Today's show is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at unlockyourwealthradio.com/freebook and click on the link to over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. We are glad to have you. I'm Heather Wagenhals, flanked by my producer extraordinaire, Michael Terry.
Here I am.
In the flesh, and we will help you get your money mind right on today's show with these following great features. Today's key is create credit. Is our 9th key in the Keys to Riches Financial Wellness series, and some of us
Bring it on.
Need some help with creating credit. Although our discussion before the show sounds like you're doing quite all right in that department, Mr. Terry.
Yeah, I'm okay. I pay all my bills, you know.
It helps. It certainly does. The moolah word of the day has to do with spending and category, so we will share that with you in a little bit. Our minutes on your money, how about that wedding debt? More and more people are taking on debt versus mom and dad paying for it. Hey, did you think about that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Kind of interesting.
Just a new trend.
I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it was funny. My best friend from high school just got married for the first time. So I was thinking about, okay, so you expect your kid to get married in their 20s, right? 30s the latest. But what do you do when your daughter's in her 40s?
They say over 30, you're on your own.
Yeah. Oh, is that the rule?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, well... all I know is that it couldn't have hurt too bad, because if mom and dad had a stash, it's had a chance to double a few times if you think about it.
Sure.
With the power of compound interest, if they let it sit there, it's doubled a few times.
Yeah.
So maybe mom and dad, paid for the wedding and still had extra. It might have been a bonus that she waited for mom and dad. But we're going to talk about that on Minutes on Your Money. And our trivia question, as always, based on a previous show. And last week's key was no seasonal exceptions. And today's guest, Jean Ann Dorrell. I'm so excited to have her on. And as always, we will talk about your money, your credit, and how to get ahead in any economy. We will also show you how to manage your money easier, saving time and reducing stress, using these proven techniques for you to create unlimited wealth and happiness. Wait a minute, I forgot to sing. Will my angels sing for me?
Yeah.
They definitely don't want to be carrying me now because my fanny's heavier. I porked out when I was over there. Man, that's the problem with buffets at weddings, is you just graze. Yeah. You're like, well, I don't want all this food to go to waste, so you go back for seconds and thirds.
Buffets are nasty.
But anyway, I'll have to have some stand-ins. Maybe I can get Schmully's girls to sing for me. We need some chorus girls here.
Yeah.
Insiders Club members are automatically entered in our weekly giveaways. However, if you are not a member and would like to compete for fabulous money management tools for free, there I am. I'm singing there. Yeah. Just answer today's trivia question correctly. So this week's trivia question is, in last week's key, we spoke of avoiding making seasonal exceptions, and we do that using what philosophy? I gave you a specific philosophy, and it has 2 words to it. The blank, blank philosophy. Are you remembering? No? Escaping you?
Yeah.
Okay, perhaps you need to go back to our workshop series.
Grade school.
Not grade school, just the Keys to Riches workshop series. We need a refresher course. Well, if you happen to know the right answer, you can win one of three ways. You can call in, chat in, or email in to win. If you want to call in, that's area code 866-966-9420, 866-966-9420. If you want to chat in, if you're listening live from the internet, pop in our chat room. Hi, I'm here. Come visit. Or if you are listening from a podcast, iTunes, or some other favorite internet radio station, because now we are moving on and we are getting put all over the place now. If you're listening from a pre-recorded broadcast or a previous broadcast, never fear. Email is here. You can send us an email with your potential right answer. And if it hasn't been answered correctly, you can become a winner. It's that simple. All you have to do is send an email, trivia@uywradio.com. And if you have no idea what the answer is, everyone can still walk away a winner. For the listeners of Unlock Your Wealth Radio, Audible is offering a free audiobook download and 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Just visit our website to get started now. Now, I said in our teaser, we were talking about wedding debt. That's today's Minutes on Your Money. Did you know that an estimated 25% of weddings today are financed by the bride and groom alone?
Really?
Yeah, I would have never guessed that.
No parents.
Nope. Well, the fact that they're just being so extravagant that they would need to finance it. I mean, I get that it's an important day, but, making it to the first anniversary, in my opinion, is a little more important.
Much more important.
But, just kind of going out there on a limb thinking that might be more important. But that number jumps to around 30% if you're looking at couples over age 30. There's your age 30 rule.
Yeah.
10 years ago, around 15% covered their wedding costs as an estimate from research. So that's changed quite a bit in a short period of time. That's a dramatic shift from 3 decades ago when a bride's parents paid the entire wedding bill, which averaged around $30,000 in 2013, according to the Knot.com's annual survey. What's interesting, I find, is that, I used to write an etiquette column, but the parents had it split. Like the bride's parents footed a lot of the bill, but there were things that the groom's parents were supposed to pick up too. So I find that interesting that the bride's parents, would pick up that kind of a tab. It would make me wonder what kind of family my kid's marrying into. I guess I'm lucky I didn't have any because all these things just don't matter.
Yeah.
Big Z's not going to get up and get married someday to some other little pooch. So
I was very lucky. My daughter, I offered to give her a traditional type wedding, and we met with a caterer, and there's money numbers were thrown around, and she, we all agreed on this thing, and she called me the next day and said, "Dad, I don't want you to spend this much money. We're gonna do a quiet dinner at a local restaurant with 15 people."
Wow.
It's cost me $1,500.
Wow, you probably lost a zero on that. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Well, since couples are marrying later, a 2012 Census Bureau survey says that since 1970, the median age for men and women has climbed over 3.5% and 4.5%, respectively, to the age of 26, almost 27 years. And to 25 years. That makes the parents that much older too. The fairy tale ending of couples is now ending in more wedding debt tragedy. While credit cards do offer some protection from unscrupulous vendors, it's too easy to lose track of that wedding spending by just charging everything. So to decide on who is going to pay and how much, here are some key factors folks should consider when planning that wedding. Number one, do you want to retain control? Accepting financial help with your wedding also means you must accept inputs and guest lists from the recipient. So get what you want with a budget you can afford and guests that you want to have. Second, what is your budget? The lower the budget, the more affordable it will be to foot the whole cost yourself. Setting aside money from each paycheck with a set deadline like 2 weeks before your wedding day when the time is up so you can limit your wedding expenses. That's a little strict, don't you think?
Yeah.
I would be like saving for a while. I mean, because it's not, I mean, unless you're going like, hey, let's do Vegas and get married, I would think that you have some time to plan on that.
Yeah. I mean, most people I would think have a year anyway.
I know. Well, we did, but you know, we planned an overseas gig, you know, so that took a lot of orchestrating to get done, you know, and legal stuff to work through as well as just the wedding stuff, you know, and so you could systematically save for that, you know, and because it's a nice short-term goal, you know, you can stay engaged and motivated to accomplish it, and it'll be easier to set that money aside on a short-term goal, like a year or less kind of thing. Yeah. So it'd be easy to stash. And we also have to keep this question in mind: who can afford to pay? It's a question every family has to decide, because it's not always going to be the bride's parents. If you have the money and your parents don't, you'll likely be doing them a big favor by taking away that financial burden. And that was a great thing that your daughter did for you. Yeah. Specifically, you want to discuss all of this stuff with your fiance first, parents, and in-laws. It's better to talk about your financial situation now before you become mired in too much debt. That's not a healthy way to start a marriage, not psychologically, to be mired in this debt just to get together. So, food for thought. That's it for Minutes on Your Money. We got Jean Ann Dorrell, our moolah word, and our key, create credit, coming up. You're listening to Unlock Your Wealth Radio, and we'll be right back after this.
Commander Marty Logan here from the Top Gun Seminars. What I've learned over the years is that the most successful people in life have coaches to guide them along their chosen path. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Tony Stewart, Tom Hopkins, Kathy Colby all had coaches. Whether it was their father, someone else's father, or another person who helped them to shape their desires into an achievable path to success with a system of accountability where quitting was the only way to fail. Each of these people had someone who didn't see them as they first were, but as the person inside they knew they could easily become. Financial coaching can be the single addition you need to become financially independent. Call the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation now for your free consultation. 1-866-966-9420. That toll-free number again is 1-866-966-9420. Or visit us on the web at www.unlockyourwealth.com.
I'm Heather Wagenhals. Too much month left over at the end of the money? Tired of paying off debt again like a slave? Then tune in to my 1-minute update on Fort Myers Beach Radio for your morning cup of money motivation. And for more tips, visit crackingyourmoneycode.com.
Greenback is your neighborhood lender for auto title loans. We offer fast and easy cash title loans for cars, trucks, and motorcycles. Keep your car with title loans from $100 to $50,000. There are no year or mileage limits at Greenback, and we offer the cheapest rates in Arizona, guaranteed. For more information, visit greenbacktitleloans.com or call 480-926-6666.
Work all day, stress all night. Take your mind off your money and focus on your life.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. You are listening to Unlock Your Wealth Radio, and I am your maven of moolah, Heather Wagenhals. Right, ready for the moolah word of the day. And we actually have a singular word. It's not a phrase this time. And I did say it had to do with spending, and specifically our moolah word of the day is expenditure. And it is the payment of cash or cash equivalent for goods or services, or a charge against available funds in settlement of an obligation. It's evidenced by an invoice, a receipt, a voucher, or other such document. Other related words would be revenue expenditure or capital expenditure having to deal with business. So what's cool about that is capital expenditures are expenditures that are required to make your business run. You know, so like, a capital expenditure would be, I need to buy like cows in order to make leather or something like that. That's probably a crappy example, but
for me, it'd be a new computer. There
you go. Well, but no, so a capital expenditure, but yeah, for you it would be a new computer because you use one in order to effectuate your daily business. So that would be a capital expenditure for you. So it could be supplies, or raw goods or materials, or it could be equipment, just like you mentioned. So that would be an example of a capital expenditure. So that is your moolah word of the day. I am excited about our money smart gal who's going to be joining us. Jean Ann Dorrell is our guest today. And she is with the moneysmartgal.com. She's a certified estate planner and published author based out of Orlando, Florida. As owner of Senior Financial Security Incorporated for more than 20 years, Jean has specialized in helping people understand how to protect their assets. She's given financial advice on more than 50 television news programs and has written more than 80 published articles, and we are so fortunate to have the Money Smart Gal on today's show. Jean Ann, it's so great to have you a part of Unlock Your Wealth Radio. Welcome to the broadcast.
Oh, it's so great to be on, Heather. Thanks for having me.
I am so glad to have someone with the depth and breadth of knowledge that you have about estate planning, but you also have written a book about scams. And one of the worst things that could ever happen to us is we've taken the time, we've minded our debt, we've kept it reasonable, we've been able to accumulate resources, and then we go to invest, and then we fall victim to a scam. How often do you see that happening?
Quite a bit, unfortunately, and I've experienced it personally with aging parents. My mother's 88, my dad is 84, and I have experienced a lot of this with them and then with clients. So just depends on how long these folks live, and the longer they live, the more susceptible they are to this type of thing because they're lonely.
Right. And they call and they talk to my mom, which I'm glad they talked to her. Otherwise, she'd be calling me all day long. But then they kind of sucker her. She calls me, you'd be proud of me. And I'm like, what did you do now? Oh, well, this guy, I got into some penny stocks and I'm going to just crush it. And I'm like, Mom, who even taught you that word, crush it?
She's hip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's got the lingo. She's 78. She's kicking it with the cool verbiage. I'm like, what?
I love it.
Yeah. But then, for my mom to save a few $100, it's like, it's like squeezing blood from a stone or a turnip. And so, so for her to just hand it over, I wouldn't be able to get, $1 for lunch from her when I was a kid, but she just hands this over to a stranger. It's just amazing to me.
It is amazing, and they sound nice on the phone, and maybe they have a nice demeanor, and your mom or my dad or my client's mom falls for that because they're lonely, and the person makes them feel good, and the next thing you know, they're getting ripped off.
So what can we do? Because they are being nice and they sound good on the phone and they've worked really hard to create rapport with us. How do we determine beforehand that it's a scam or a fraud? Is there a way?
Some people are really good. It's kind of that old saying, like if somebody really wants to break into your house, there's nothing you can do to prevent that. That does go as far as what we're talking about here in certain cases, but there are things you can do, just common sense things. Check with the Better Business Bureau. Go to sunbiz.org and check to see if this is a real corporation. Google the person's name that's calling you. These are all things that you can do to find out if this is legitimate. Ask them for a copy of their license or their license number or their regulatory board so you can check them out.
Okay, that's great advice. So what are some examples of some of the bigger scams that get perpetrated against folks?
Well, there's all kinds of scams that happen. Probably the one that I see the most of with my aging clientele. I have about 1,000 clients. I've been doing this 22 years. And, some of my clients have been with me from the beginning. And when they were really sharp and everything worked well and they could focus on their finances, that was one thing. And now we're talking 20 years later. One of my clients is 103.
Wow.
And she drives and the only thing wrong with her is she needs hearing aids. But she herself would say that maybe she's not as focused as she once was. And one of the things that older folks fall scam to is a letter or an email or a phone call telling them that they've won money. And it might even say you've won $17,000. It might give an amount. And all they have to do to claim it is send a check for $2,000. That's the one that I see quite often. So those are always scams. If you won money, you should never have to pay anything to receive your winnings.
Right. Yeah. If there are taxes or anything, they usually take it from the check that they issue you. They don't actually make you pay for it up front.
Exactly. Now, another one that's really popular these days, and maybe you've even heard of this, Heather, is you get an email, and it comes from an email address that you recognize. Maybe it's your sister, your brother-in-law, your neighbor, and it says, "Hi, Heather, I'm stranded. I hate to bother you, but I'm stranded in Mexico right now. I was here on vacation, and my purse got stolen, and to get back, I just need you to wire me some money to this place, using Western Union or whatever it is." And those people respond to, especially if it's a relative, and it came from that relative's email. Well, their email was hacked, and the scammer is using that information in your personal relationship to benefit.
Yeah, that seems so scary too, because you want to be able to protect your relatives and stuff and help them out. Of course, you're not even going to think about it because you recognize the email address.
Well, and plus, most people would say, well, I'd call that person, but that's why they say, well, I'm stranded in Mexico, or my passport was stolen, my wallet was stolen. There's no way for you to call that person. But just be aware that nowadays, I travel internationally for business and for pleasure, and nowadays your cell phone will work just about anywhere. It will work in Europe, it will work in Mexico, and so if someone's saying that they're stranded, try to reach their cell phone number and see if you can find out, see if they're really at home, and check this out before you ever wire money to anyone.
Yeah, that's great advice, because I have traveled internationally, and I don't think that there's anywhere I didn't go that my cell phone worked. And I actually thought it worked better when I was in a subway in Hong Kong. They have such amazing cell phone service than I can standing next to the tower. I'm like, why do we have such crappy service here?
I know what you mean.
So those are just a couple of scams. And so, what's remarkable to me in our conversation is these are kind of not super big dollar amounts. I mean, because, you can smell the letter from Nigeria that somebody wants to wire you $15 bazillion. And you're like, that I don't know anybody that's a bazillionaire, let alone somebody that wants to let me hold on to it for any period of time. So that one is kind of obvious that that's a fraud. But what I'm noticing is it's these little chunks of money, and not that 17,000 is little, but if you've saved all your life, you usually have more than 17,000. So it really sets up some of our elderly population to be taken for a ride.
Oh, absolutely. And it happens more than you know. One that I was just called to my attention, one of my clients came in and told me that his identity was stolen. And he thinks it happened at the doctor's office because one of the people that works at the doctor's office was kind of a fly-by-night type and then quit and left in the night, and they think the system was hacked, and he has had a heck of a time trying to correct this with the credit bureaus, all of the credit bureaus that you have to contact, and whoever stole his identity went and applied for credit cards and charged things up and put in change of addresses. And so this is another thing to watch out. This actually happened to me. I got a letter from one of my credit card companies, and it said, "We have been notified that you moved. And if this isn't your new address, you need to let us know." So I had to call them immediately and say, I did not move. This is where I've lived for years, and that's a scam. Right. So you need to make sure you're looking at your mail. So many of us get our mail now electronically, and it's easy just to put off reading that email. Yes. So do be sure you look at your mail when it comes in.
This is a great direction we're going in with this conversation. And when we return from the break, I want to ask you some more about identity theft and its impact, because it can be deadly. You are listening to Jean Ann Dorrell on Unlock Your Wealth Radio, and we'll be right back with more after this.
Commander Marty Logan here from the Top Gun Seminars. What I've learned over the years is that the most successful people in life have coaches to guide them along their chosen path. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Tony Stewart, Tom Hopkins, Kathy Colby all had coaches. Whether it was their father, someone else's father, or another person who helped them to shape their desires into an achievable path to success with a system of accountability where quitting was the only way to fail. Each of these people had someone who didn't see them as they first were, but as the person inside they knew they could easily become. Financial coaching can be the single addition you need to become financially independent. Call the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation now for your free consultation. 1-866-966-9420. That toll-free number again is 1-866-966-9420. Or visit us on the web at www.unlockyourwealth.com.
I'm Heather Wagenhals. Too much month left over at the end of the money? Tired of paying off debt like a slave? Then tune in to my 1-minute update on the Jiggy Jaguar Radio Network for your cup of money motivation. And for more tips, visit crackingyourmoneycode.com.
Greenback is your neighborhood lender for auto title loans. We offer fast and easy cash title loans for cars, trucks, and motorcycles. Keep your car with title loans from $100 to $50,000. There are no year or mileage limits at Greenback, and we offer the cheapest rates in Arizona, guaranteed. For more information, visit greenbacktitleloans.com or call 480-926-6666.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. You are listening to Unlock Your Wealth Radio, and I am your purveyor of prosperity, Heather Wagenhals. And today I have our special guest, Jean Ann Dorrell, on the line. And before the break, we were talking about frauds and scams, and we kind of moved into identity theft. And one of the things that happened to me, you mentioned receiving a letter. I got a letter from Cindy Crawford Beauty saying, "Thank you so much for your order sent to blah, blah, blah in California," when I'm an Arizona resident. And I'm like, that is curious, because I don't know that person, let alone would buy them Cindy Crawford makeup.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And you know what upset me is because I had their address and everything of where this stuff was mailed to. And I took it to my local police department and I filed an incident report, and somebody was supposed to follow up, and they're just like, yeah, it's a dead end. And I'm like, well, did you even call California police? And did you even follow up on it? And it's so tough to try to follow up on this sort of stuff. I mean, how would one handle it otherwise? I mean, if you can't count on your local police, are there other resources for folks to get their credit cleaned up when stuff like that happens?
Well, that's funny because when you were telling that story, it reminded me of what happened to me about a year ago. I got a bill on my credit card for a delivery of flowers for $200 to somebody in Dallas, Texas. Well, I don't know anybody in Dallas, Texas, so I called the florist and I said, just who did I send flowers to? So they gave me the name. I said, I don't know this person. It's not ringing a bell. So they said, well, we don't have anything to do with it. The flower delivery was made. Now you've got to pay, or you got to take it up with your credit card company. And like you said, you call the police, they laugh at you. So I just did my own little investigation. I looked up the address. I had the address of where the flowers were delivered. I looked up who lived there. I called. I investigated, and I was able to give my credit card company enough information to where they reversed the charge. I, of course, challenged the charge, but it took probably 3 hours to do all that. So it was interesting that a crook would go as far as to use my credit card to pay for a flower delivery for somebody.
Well, yeah, and that must have been one heck of a flower delivery. Either somebody was trying to romance somebody or somebody died.
Yeah.
$200. Holy
no
smokes.
Doubt.
Well, that's great that you were able to get resolution, and were able to pursue that on your own.
Yeah, you have to challenge things. I'll tell you what happened to my sister-in-law. We were in Europe. We were in Greece. This was about 8 years ago on vacation. And we walked into a little store on the island of Santorini, which is very lovely if you've ever been there. And she bought some candles and some holders and things, a couple $100 worth of gifts. And they said, oh, we can ship these for you. And so she paid, and she was starting to walk out. And I said, you might want to get an itemized list of what you just bought, just in case. Not thinking anything about it, but we didn't have any kind of receipt or itemized list. So she had them write that up. Come to find out, the items never came. The charge went through on her card, and because we had that itemized list, we were able to get the charge reversed. And it was funny because the vendor would never call us back when we were calling Greece until the credit card company reversed the charge, and then they're calling going, oh, well, we'll send you your stuff now. No thanks. That's okay.
Yeah.
So you wonder how often this happens.
Wow.
Right. And fortunately, with all of my world travels, I was always suspect of that, but I hadn't had an experience where they didn't ship. But God, that would be devastating to look and hope for, those memories to make it home, and then it becomes a nightmare instead of something pleasant about being in that store and being on the island of Santorini. So that's just really disappointing. It's really disappointing.
And I actually had it happen a second time when the store went out of business, if you can believe this. In between me buying something in California, shipping it back to Florida, within 3 days, suddenly the store was out of business. And yet it went through on my credit card. So those are always fun to deal with.
Right. And, some credit card companies are very proactive about things. And, I know that when I had this Cindy Crawford issue and I called the credit card that it was on, they were really proactive. And I said, I filed a police incident report. Here's the number. Do you need me to scan it to you and everything? And they're like, no, just send us the copy of the letter that you got and we'll take care of it. And I never heard another thing about it, and it never showed up on my bill, which, I was pretty excited about that. But some of them, I remember when I got married, I had to send them a copy of my marriage license before they could change the name on my account. It was so ridiculous.
Right. Right. I know, it is crazy.
And I sent them boatloads of evidence of this termination of a contract and how these people continue to charge me, and they refuse to reverse the charge. And they said, and they drug their feet, and they're like, well, we have a 90-day policy and you're outside of that 90-day window. And I'm like, I'm outside of the window because you didn't do anything. And I was so angry that I canceled the card, and I reported them to the Better Business Bureau in their local state. And boy, did they get upset with me. And they started sending me threatening letters and stuff like that, but they didn't provide the service that they were supposed to. They actually ruined part of my business. It was for an email marketing company. They got my newsletter blacklisted. So I went from having almost 750,000 subscribers to like 2,000 when I had to move to another provider and I had to change my email domain that the emails were going out of and everything. It was just such a nightmare, and they kind of destroyed my business, and they still charged me for it, and I couldn't get out of either, and I had like no recourse. So I did make sure that I tarnished their record by reporting them to the Better Business Bureau and their local attorney general and stuff like that, and I did my best to mar their reputation for what they did, and just to make
you got to do something.
Yeah.
Got to do something. Well, I'll tell you what I would recommend. You asked me what kind of recourse can you have when these things happen. What has worked best for me is to subscribe, and there's several of them out there. LifeLock is just one, but there's several you can go with. Intellius is another that can guard your information and send you an alert. For example, I refinanced my home about a year ago, and because I've got my credit being watched to see what happens, I got an alert on my phone. I got a text message, an email, and a phone call saying, did you apply for a mortgage? Because we're showing your Social Security number did. And so those types of things are helpful because, I did apply for a mortgage, but if it wasn't me, I would want to know right away.
Oh, exactly. And, one of the things that we can do for free, if we know that we don't use our credit or are not looking for credit anytime soon, we can lock our credit profiles down for free just by sending a letter to each of the independent credit bureaus. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on about your story before about the person that had their information breached at the doctor's office, when someone assumes your identity, and let's say that they're doing it for insurance benefits. Now, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out with Obamacare. But previously, people would assume identities and claim medical benefits and things like that. And this person that I'm speaking of was actually almost killed because they came in unconscious and they were given a medication that they were allergic to, but their medical information bureau had a history of somebody else's information.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah, and they were given information or they were given medication for diabetes, and they weren't diabetic, but the person that had been abusing their medical history and their medical benefits was diabetic.
Wow.
Different blood types, everything. And so it could be potentially deadly when this happens. And so folks really need to be proactive about what they do when it comes to their identity. Wouldn't you agree?
That is so scary, yeah. And I know a lot of my clients carry with them in their wallets a list of medications they're on, their blood type, any kind of diagnoses they have, if they are diabetic, if they are allergic to penicillin. A lot of my clients carry that as well. And there are databases, too, that you can store that information in separate from the MIB, and then carry a little card in your wallet that would give a doctor or hospital information on how to get your correct medical records. And doctors and hospitals are paying attention to that more and more now because they realize what has occurred. I mean, that's a nightmare because now you're talking about the doctor and the hospital could get sued, could be liable.
Right.
That is just terrible.
Right. And, it's really funny. One of my coaching clients actually has, they have the sleeve tattoos are real popular, and he's diabetic, and he's got a symbol of the medical alert bracelet, and it's tattooed on his wrist, and it says, "I'm diabetic." So he went super proactive. He's not carrying a card. He's not waiting for somebody to dig in his wallet or look at his jewelry that might be torn off. He's got it written on him. "I'm diabetic."
That's great. That's great.
This has been an incredible discussion, and you have a whole nother side of you that's estate planner extraordinaire, so we're going to have you on the show again. But if folks want to get your book about scams and frauds, how does one find it or find you?
Okay, so they can go to Amazon.com and put my name in, Jean Ann Dorrell as the author, or they can put in the book name, which is Don't Be a Victim, Protect Yourself. And they can buy that at Amazon.com. They can also find a series of ebooks that are free of charge on my website, and that's at www.thesmartmoneygal.com. Make sure you put in the THE, or you might get some other smart money gal who's not as smart as me. So thesmartmoneygal.com. And I'm also on Facebook and Twitter and do a lot of blogging, so you'll be able to find all that on my website.
Outstanding. Well, thanks again for being on the show, Jean Ann. And for those of you who are driving around without a pencil, never fear. UnlockYourWealthRadio.com is here, where you can visit Jean Ann's show page and get all the linky links to her good stuff, free books, blog, and more. And stay tuned because we have more Unlock Your Wealth Radio coming up right after this.
Commander Marty Logan here from the Top Gun Seminars. What I've learned over the years is that the most successful people in life have coaches to guide them along their chosen path. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Tony Stewart, Tom Hopkins, Kathy Colby all had coaches. Whether it was their father, someone else's father, or another person who helped them to shape their desires into an achievable path to success with a system of accountability where quitting was the only way to fail. Each of these people had someone who didn't see them as they first were, but as the person inside they knew they could easily become. Financial coaching can be the single addition you need to become financially independent. Call the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation now for your free consultation. 1-866-966-9420. That toll-free number again is 1-866-966-9420. Or visit us on the web at www.unlockyourwealth.com.
Heather Wagenhals here from crackingyourmoneycode.com. Tune in to my Unlock Your Wealth update for your daily cup of money motivation. Weekdays at 12:25 during the midday news report on Corey's Hometown Radio, 1370 AM WWCB.
Greenback is your neighborhood lender for auto title loans. We offer fast and easy cash title loans for cars, trucks, and motorcycles. Keep your car with title loans from $100 to $50,000. There are no year or mileage limits at Greenback, and we offer the cheapest rates in Arizona, guaranteed. For more information, visit greenbacktitleloans.com or call 480-926-6666.
Work all day, stress all night. Take your mind off your money and focus on your life.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. You are listening to Unlock Your Wealth Radio, and I am your purveyor of prosperity, Heather Wagenhals, and it is that time again for our key in our keys to riches. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to the broadcast. We're so glad to have you a part of Unlock Your Wealth Radio. Hopefully you've been achieving some significant value out of today's show, and we hope to deliver you so much more with our keys to riches. And the keys to riches, simply put, is the baker's dozen of financial concepts that teach you how to think like the rich and be in control of your own money. It also gives you specific techniques to create or fix your credit, eliminate debt, save and invest, building wealth while transforming your current financial habits into healthy money management skills. And we do that one key at a time, 1 week at a time here at Unlock Your Wealth Radio. And this week's key is create credit. It is our 9th key in our Keys to Riches series. So number 9, love potion number 9. Isn't that how it goes?
That is.
Sort of.
And Revolution number 9.
Oh, I don't know about Revolution number 9.
Beatles song.
Oh, is it? Yeah, see, not a Beatles fan.
No.
No, thanks for playing. I like, there's one song that Paul McCartney did that had that and then like the phone rings, you know?
Uncle Albert.
There you go. I can never remember it, but I always know when somebody says it. That Uncle Albert song. Whoop-a-ba-ba-da, whoop-a-ba-ba. That. I like that. And then it's got that crazy guy with that funny voice from that chess movie. What was that chess movie?
Bobby Fischer.
No, I'll think of it. There was the one song from that movie was that made it real big was that One Night in Bangkok in the 80s. It was a chess movie. It was crazy. Anyway, it has nothing to do with creating your credit, so I bet everybody else wants to know about that.
I got you off on a tangent.
It happens. Squirrel, that's me. Hello there. Easily distracted. Let's talk about your credit, because your credit, when it comes to building wealth strategically, the way we teach it here at the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation, is critical to your success. And you must have great credit in order to manifest what it is you truly desire. Because if we wait for you to save and save and save, it's probably not going to happen. You're going to get disinterested too fast. But if we can leverage ourselves successfully and systematically over time, we can build an amazing portfolio that other people pay off. Wouldn't that be cool if somebody else paid down your debt? Mm-hmm. I mean, I know every time I walk in the studio, you're like, cha-ching, I got that MasterCard covered. Heather's here. Whew, I was sweating at this one. Here she comes. She'll blab all day. That's perfect. So what we want to do is we want to have other people help us build our wealth. And the way to do that is to be able to leverage ourselves successfully. But if we're carrying an inordinate amount of superficial, unimportant debt, then we can't get there. Additionally, if we have mismanaged our debt in the past, it is not a life sentence. That's the good news when it comes to bad credit, is it's not a life sentence. So if we think about it, your credit report is a snapshot of one moment in time right now. And why that's important is because we have credit scoring that everybody gets fixated on. And, you know, I saw this coming a mile away. I mentioned it on my radio show in 2003 when I was asked about bubbles and when do you think the real estate bubble is going to pop? And I said, that's not the bubble to watch for. It's the mortgage bubble. People thought I was smoking crack or something. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, the mortgage bubble. It's going to be more massive and more devastating because it's going to affect everybody because of where we go to get our home loans is mostly through our banks. That's where we put our money, that we work hard and save. And we're like, whoa, wait a minute. So if you have bad credit, it's not a life sentence. It just means that you're going to have to spend a little bit more time than everybody else to get there. But we have to understand credit and how it works before we can start creating the ideal credit profile. So credit scoring is a snapshot of one moment in time that takes everything in your credit profile and compares it with other folks' credit profiles that are similar to yours, okay? And why that's relevant is because it's a statistical formula. If you ever go in to buy a car or something and somebody says, oh yeah, inquiries cost you 5 points, they're full of crap. They have no idea how credit works, and you need to run, not walk from that creditor because they're in addition to not knowing what they're doing, they're probably going to rake you over the coals with a lot of extra crap you don't need. And they're going to manipulate you by saying certain things on your credit report are creating these problems. So your credit report, though, is so important. Your credit score is now what a lot of insurance companies are using as criteria, as well as employment. I mean, when I hire people for my mortgage business or my lending business, I have to pull credit because I can't hire them if they have a certain amount of unsecured debt, meaning credit card debt. If they have a certain dollar amount, if they're over that, then I can't hire them legally because they may not have the right person's interest at heart when they affect a transaction, meaning their commission is more important than what's right for the client. Yeah. And so it affects employment, it affects your insurance rates because people who have low credit scores are more likely to file claims and frivolous claims at that, or commit insurance fraud. And so those people are going to get rated higher for their insurance premiums than otherwise. Also people with low credit scores tend to have more health issues. It's interesting.
That all makes sense.
So it all plays in. And what is a credit report? It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with behavior.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a testament to your character and the way you behave. And so people don't realize that. They think it's about money, and it's not. It has nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with behavior, because that's what they're trying to determine. They're trying to determine whether or not you are likely to default on this new obligation you wish to take on. So they want to see how you've behaved in the past. And so a statistical number like a credit score can't effectively predict that. And most large or longer term debt are underwritten by human beings. It's not just like this formula that gets stuck in a computer and they spit out a number. Yes, you're approved. No, you're not. That sort of thing. An underwriter actually looks at these 4 layers of risk, which we'll talk about more next week in Remember Real Estate, what the specific underwriting criteria is for mortgages. But we're going to talk about this layer of risk called character. And it's how you've behaved in the past with money is a good indicator of how you will behave in the future. Because why? Behavior is subconscious. It's automatic. So we know you're going to do what you've always done. Yeah. Especially under duress. Why? Because as we teach at the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation, brain-based financial literacy, our logic brain is the last brain we think with. And so if we get hung up in emotion or instinctual behavior, boom, we default to the programming that's already there. So that's why credit reports are great. Credit scoring is this new advent, and they're still working out the kinks to it. But as we saw, it was, it was the chink in the armor, if you will, or it was the trap door to the belly of the Trojan horse with our mortgage debacle that we had. So what we want to do is we want to identify what's going on with our credit, understand how it works, and what we need to do to get it in tip-top shape. Now, most underwriting guidelines have a minimum of 2 trade lines for 24 months with 0 lates, or 4 trade lines. So it starts at 2 for government financing, and it goes up from there for conventional financing. And a trade line is any extension of credit. So it could be just a signature loan from your bank. It can be a credit card, a car payment, a mortgage, a student loan. Any of that stuff is considered a, quote, trade line, unquote, and can be used for you when can be used as a way to document your behavior. And what's great, and this is for people that have had bumps in the road, it looks at the last 2 years. So if you have had a hiccup, and maybe you had a catastrophic event, you got into a car accident, and because you couldn't work, you lost your job, not because you were injured, but because they had to fill that position, and maybe they didn't know when you were coming back, blah, blah, blah. It was a crazy deal. So maybe you had a tough time paying bills. And that can be seen on a credit report when you look at the history, because like everything from December of a year and a half ago was all bad. Everything was 30 days late, but it's the only 30-day late spike in the whole credit report. So with a simple credit explanation letter, you can overcome that in underwriting. Now, the problem lies with the people that are habitually late, and it's inconsistent. It's like some trade lines I get paid on time, some I don't. Sometimes I pay my mortgage on time. Most of the time I pay my car payment on time, but I always pay my Victoria's Secret credit card on time because everybody needs fresh underwear. I'm serious. You laugh, and I bring that up because I remember this one chick had a 700 and something, like 749 FICO score, and she only had one trade line. And to get in the 700 or 800s, you've had to have credit for like 10, 20 years. It just so happens that the day we pulled her credit, her balance was reporting zero because she had just finally paid it off. And so when we pulled her credit, she had it for 6 months, but her credit score wasn't enough. You know what I mean? Because the behavior hadn't been long enough. 6 months is all she had the card. So we had to work on creating other trade lines for her and getting her a longer credit history. What we have to remember is there's 85 factors that go into a credit score, but only 3 actually count for a majority of your credit score. There are 2 factors that aren't included. Can you guess what those 2 factors are?
Oh, boy.
And everybody thinks that they're involved in your credit score, but they're not.
We talked about this
Yes.
before.
Yes.
Late payments are not what we're talking about.
Correct. That's because late payments are one of the criteria of the majority. Okay, so you failed the quiz, but that's okay. So Equal Credit Opportunity Act factors. So race, country, color, creed, religion, sex, national origin, not included. So when you go through the credit scoring process, are just a number. You're not a guy, you're not a girl, you're just a number. And the second thing that people think is involved in credit score is income. But income has nothing to do with it. That's its own separate layer of risk that's an underwriting decision. It has nothing to do with your credit score. So those 2 things don't count. So what you do need to focus on are the 3 things that are over 80% of your credit score. Okay, so the first one is open and available credit. People think it's going to be on-time payments, but it's not. 35% of your score has to do with open and available credit. And so what that means is if you have a $1,000 credit card and a $900 balance, how much open and available credit do you have?
Only 100.
Right. So only 10% is available. But if you have a $1,000 credit card and you only have $100 charged on it, how much do you have available?
90%.
Very good. So that is going to your open and available credit in relation, and it's a ratio in relation to the full credit limit versus how much you currently owe is a factor. It counts for 35% of your score. It's the largest weight. So that is a good determiner on whether or not you manage your money successfully. Because if your card is always maxed out and never gets paid off, and there's a difference between having a high balance from maxing it out and paying it off and just maxing it out and riding the minimum payment.
Yeah.
Big difference. And yes, that can be seen in your credit report. We can tell whether or not you pay it off every month. And you can max it out and pay it off every month. And that's more important. People say, oh, carry a balance. It shows good payment history. No, it doesn't. It shows that you're stupid and you're probably paying like 25% or 29% interest. And so there's no reason why to pay interest. Use OPM effectively. When we use OPM or other people's money, the point is to get as much as you can for free. So find out what your grace period is. Is it 25 days? So charge and then pay it off at the end of the month. And maybe you can charge this month and you have 25 days from the date the bill cycles. That's even better. That gives you 45 days to enjoy whatever it is before you have to pay for it. And you pay it off before the grace period expires. Guess what? No interest. How great is that? So you got a 45-day float on somebody else's moolah.
I think you can have more than 45.
It all depends on the terms from your individual credit card company.
Yeah.
So for people with great credit, they have better terms. And for people with not so great credit, they have more strict terms. So you just got to know what they are. Those little books that come with your credit card that's printed on like that thin Bible paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you got to read to find that out.
Yeah.
You got to read that to understand what your grace period is and how your finance fees are calculated, and then you can game the system, so to speak. But we don't want to be carrying frivolous debt. I mean, that's the key.
Yeah.
So the next section is 30% of your credit score is on-time payments. And the beauty of this is it only goes back the last 24 months when they calculate the score, the most recent 24 months. And if a charge account has been closed, it doesn't matter if you paid a mortgage for 30 years on time. If it's like a year and a half later, it doesn't even come into your score.
Yeah.
So once it stops reporting, it looks nice to an underwriter, but as far as the score is concerned, thanks for playing, doesn't matter. So if you do have a hiccup, in 24 months, you can correct that hiccup. And time itself, you don't need a credit repair specialist to leverage that off. Time itself will take care of it. And then the final factor of the top three that make up this big percentage is length of time your accounts have been open. Okay. And so that is huge when it comes to credit scores, because the longer you have an account open, the better off you are, because it shows your discipline and your stewardship to your credit, And so I had a ton of problems with somebody misreporting taxes under my taxpayer ID number when I was very young, and I didn't manage it well. They kept sending me saying I owed money. I'm like, but I didn't live in Pennsylvania, and I didn't have this job that you say I owed. And they said, well, refile, and we'll fix it. I'm like, but I was in high school in Arizona. I didn't even file. I mean, I didn't get paid to be a cheerleader, so I just kind of blew it off like a young person would, right?
Yeah.
And then they started locking up bank accounts and seizing assets. And I'm like, whoa! And so all of a sudden, la-di-da, my lackadaisical ways caught up with me. And so all those great credit cards that I had, I didn't want to file a bank. I didn't want to get rid of them, but I had to file a bankruptcy to stop all of this other stuff that was going on. And so I did, and I lost some of that tenure. And so that kind of broke my heart. And now there's some credit cards that I have that when I got divorced, I had to reestablish my credit. And so I had to take those 30% interest rate cards because it was the only thing that I could get. And they have stupid little limits. Like, I can't even buy a pair of shoes. If I wanted to buy a fancy, expensive designer pair of shoes, I can't even do it with these credit cards. But because of that 15% means so much that I keep paying the $3 service fee to have it open, because it's more important for me to have that open and available credit than it is for me to lose that tenure.
Yeah.
So 6 of one, half a dozen of another kind of thing. So that's 15% of your score. Everything else, judgments, liens, all that stuff, those things affect underwriting decisions, bankruptcies, foreclosures. You get 24 months away from those things and you're golden. And some lenders will even come and give you money beforehand. I know that like the day that my bankruptcy was, whatever they do, dismissed, whatever, discharged, I was golden. I started getting credit card offers in the mail and all kind of stuff. And the reason why is because they know you can't file it for another 10 years. So they know that you're going to be desperate to get new credit and they can rape you over the coals.
Yeah.
So you can get credit right away. It's how much are you willing to pay for it. And if you understand the rule of OPM and figuring out how to play that, then you're totally golden. So that's what you need to focus on when it comes to managing your money, is you have to get the most recent 24 months. We will go in depth in qualifying for your first home or investment property in next week's key, which is remember real estate. But we have to be focused and vigilant in eliminating any frivolous debt, getting our open and available credit as high as possible, and making darn sure that our payments are on time. And that way we have a flawless credit report when we go into our underwriting scenario. That's it for this week's key. For your key statement, key affirmation, and key action item, visit unlockyourwealthradio.com. And for more in-depth interviews with money experts, strategies, and members-only tools to fix your credit, get out of debt, and have more money and happiness, do what other savvy listeners have and visit unlockyourwealthradio.com, where you go to get your money mind right so your wealth and happiness will follow. Become an Insiders Club member today and start receiving the benefits of millionaire wisdom right now. Today's show is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at unlockyourwealthradio.com/freebook and click on the link to over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. For Unlock Your Wealth Radio and Michael Terry, I'm Heather Wagenhals. Now go out and unlock your wealth today.
UnlockYourWealthRadio.com is produced by Heather Wagenhals and the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation. UnlockYourWealthRadio.com and its affiliates are copyrighted 2013 with all rights reserved. For more information on the Keys to Riches Financial Wellness Series, please visit our website at www.unlockyourwealth.com.